Uju Gakanawia, Mushkine Wasika Indigo, Darcy Jones Indigenaka Janganashimang, Mong Nindodem, Kuchiching Nindonji, Fort Francis and Da, Gawije, Odamana Janashna Abenujiag. So I work at Waking Up Ojibwe. I work with 0 to 6 programs, families, daycare centers. I create resources and books and games and help with our website and just do a whole bunch of different stuff, all in the name of language revitalization and just getting our language out there as much as possible. We started this session, these PD sessions this year. This is our 5th session, I believe, and we just invited some colleagues, partners, people we have worked with in the past, people we look up to, all in the name of language revitalization. And we made a wish list at, I think back in December. And we were like, who do we want to hear speak? Who do we want to be presented to? So we made a big list, and MICC, Donna, Sharissa, Cayer, Danae were right up on my top of my wish list. They were the one group that I was like, I'll reach out to them. And there was a big wish list, and they instantly said yes to me. So I'm kind of new to this language journey. I think within the past 5 years, I've been really actively learning. I started learning when I worked at Aboriginal Head Start in Fort Francis. Learned at circle time, crisscross applesauce, hands in my basket with those little 3-4-year-olds, and started to learn how to count my colors and all of that kind of stuff. I started incorporating it into my work, and eventually it just kind of took over my life. Then COVID happened, of course, and I was actively trying to find any type of lessons, any type of classes I could get my hands on, to take up my time and to really dive into learning as much as possible. And MICC popped up, and I was like, I'll take this class. I was open to anything. And I instantly fell in love with how Donis and Sharissa and Cayer, what kind of environment they created within their online classrooms, just their openness and playfulness with the language, making it accessible to everyone. The type of resources they had online helped me with my job at Waking Up Ojibwe. So I'm really, really grateful. Really grateful for you guys in my language journey, but as a professional as well. Just a quick introduction to MICC, and this is straight off their website, but it's a non-for-profit educational organization that works to promote awareness and understanding of Indigenous culture for all Manitobans. MICC houses more than 10,000 books and videos and hundreds of artifacts and works of art. They do many programs and services servicing Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. And here, I'm going to link their website right here. I know I get kind of click happy or a little bit antsy during presentations sometimes, so I like to click around and look things up. I know there's a lot of you here who are active with MICC, but if you're not, then there's their website. And my own shameless plug here. I'm also going to put Waking Up Ojibwe's website in case you haven't it out, but there's lots of stuff on both those websites. But I'm going to hand it over to my friends Cayer, Sharissa, and Donis. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Ninetam na? Po siya nito may magretok, manawana ko gishok nin Donis Ndeshnakaz wabjeshi and Dodem Bagwanish Gozibing and Donji Ndananoki MICEC Eshnikadek So I work at the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Center, and I'm from Rosa River Anishinaabe First Nation. My name is Donis Kennedy, and I was super happy to get this request. We do get a lot of requests at MICC, and we can usually do one a week, especially online. But I definitely wanted to do this one because I really love waking up Ojibwe's resources. I use them with my son and I use them with myself, and I love like just posting, like I'll take I know some of the pages that we had all about Neen pages, and I did that with my son at home during lockdown. And we also were following Draw with Rob. So we had like a tutorial of how to make your own selfie, and we put them in the pages. We did that as programming at Ininíw, who we partnered with to learn Ojibwe, Ininímowin, and Michif through their program with their youth. And so we are always using all of that and posting on social media going, hey, look, I did Waking Up Ojibwe's pages. Look at my cute profile pic now. All about Neen. So it's definitely mutual. The respect, the encouragement, and just the appreciation for the work that Waking Up Ojibwe does. And also, I know that there's what you see on the website, there's what you see on the social media, there's what you see in the resources, but there's all the work in the community. There's all the work with the speakers. There's all the work with the schools and the teachers and the kids. And, I just really appreciate that. It shows in the work that you do. So, miigwech, awainin, wintam.
Nintam.
Eh,
Tanse gachenau niwagumaganak.
Dance!
Asgisko kapapamuted ni na ega Sharissa Neault Maika netutem. Mahkésiwi Sákahikanihk egwa kai netus Jean. Maaga Winnipeg Newigin anost. Ininíw egwa Michif Nina. So, egwa, netos kawao MICEC Outreach Manager Nina. So hi everyone, my name is Sharissa. I'm Wolf Clan. I'm from Lake Cree Nation. And my Michif family is from Cayer, Manitoba. I am Cree and I am Michif, and I am MICEC's Outreach Manager. I'm super excited to be here to see some familiar faces and some new faces as well. And me too, Gaini Nista. I'm really grateful to be here with all of you. I'm also really grateful for the work that Waking Up Ojibwe does. As you'll see in the presentation, the Ininíwek, the Swampy Cree and dialect peeps, we don't have a lot of resources. We don't have a lot of specifically and dialect material to work off of. And something that I did, well, not by choice, but I started learning Ojibwe to help me learn those conjugations. At first it wasn't by choice, but then I saw how awesome it really was and how helpful it could be. And the work that Waking Up Ojibwe has helped me in my journey and contributes to all of that language work. And I'm really grateful for the work you do and all the love that you put into that work. And I see how much work you do. I know you were in the MICEC language table, so that's really, really important. And Nēhinawēwin. I'm grateful.
Miigwech.
Egwane.
Gintam, Kale.
Anin Bujugakanawaya, Miigwech Wandam. I'm so thankful to be here. Nice to see you all. Where do I start? Kale Swampy, Indigenous, Sagin and Donji, Nemaina Dutem, Anishinaabemowin Ando-gikendamowin. Yeah, so what I just said is My name is Kel Swampy. I'm from Saging First Nation. I'm part of the Sturgeon clan, and I'm a Two-Spirit Anishinaabemowin. And I work here with MICC, and we do language tables, and we we help with resources and like just lifting people up to start their language journey. Yeah, it's so nice to see everyone, familiar faces. Miigwech.
Oh, miigwech. And I'll also do a little plug for Waking Up Ojibwe. If you guys don't know, Waking Up Ojibwe does a really cool thing with their resources. They allow for editing of the resources. So when they post their resources and they have like a resource that they've worked through with their speakers, they also have an editable version so that you can use their resources even if they're different from your dialect or your speaker or even your language. all those Ininíwin. So you can adapt them to be able to reflect what it is that you're trying to learn. And I think that's so incredible with Indigenous language work. I think that makes Waking Up Ojibwe like a real leader in the field, because then anybody, even if you're working with a teacher or a speaker or you yourself carry your language, but you spell it differently or you use a different system or you have slightly different vocabulary or words that you're comfortable and you want to share what you carry, you can adapt that. So I know that that's a big thing that I really enjoy about, because us too, we have kind of Western dialect, so there's a lot of Ojibwe language resources. There's less in the Western dialect. So we really appreciate that. What we're talking about, most of the stuff that we've been doing at MICC, I just want to acknowledge too, Anna's here, Anna Pronto, our office manager. I don't know if she can turn her camera on or not because she might be multitasking. She's got we keep her very, very busy at MICC, but she's one of the ones that I look up to in my language work and her learning. She really has worked with the community and the youth to help pick up the language and in our family. So she's always supported us. Yeah, she got turned on the phone. She's also my cousin, but she didn't hire me, just FYI. But she is the one that I look up to a lot, and she's always the one I ask for questions. She actually studied linguistics, and it's because of her that I'm not as afraid of learning the language and sharing what I'm learning as I go, because I was really intimidated by the linguistics side of it and not knowing what people were saying. And Anna was able to communicate. She'd take that great big blue book when I had a question out with Rand Valentine, his big blue grammar dictionary, and she'd flip through those pages and she'd find exactly where, and she'd look at it and then she'd say, oh, she's like, and she'd explain it in terms that I understood and I could continue. So that's something that was like a complete wall for me that I felt like I ran into, was just like a little tiny step in the sidewalk after I had that conversation with Anna. So she may not be like involved in the language table, but she's involved in all the language work that we do. And also Danae, we keep her very, very busy as well. So busy she can't be here right now, but anybody who's been to our language table, Danae and Noah, Danielle, there's a lot of the MICC staff come in and support, as well as the speakers that we work with. So that's something that we do. We have a language table, and it started out with just soup, my favorite soup recipes, and bannock, not my bannock, because I do not cook good bannock. I do not make good bannock. I would never serve anybody that I cared about my bannock. I think it's only useful for hockey pucks or shingles, my grandpa said. I'm a flipper. I'm a very well-practiced flipper of my auntie's fry bread. So for me, I went and bought it from MMF. They have Elsie Bear's Kitchen over there, makes really nice bannock. And I credit that for our success of our language table. We got one every week with soup. And, you know, we didn't have a lot of resources, but we had our library, we had a lot of learners, and everybody, we thought, well, whoever drops in will just learn together. And we can pull out the tapes and we can pull out the books and we can go through them together as a group. And when we started it up, I don't know if it was a bannock or if it was a language or the timing, but we had a regular group of people come, and a lot of them were fluent. You know, a lot of them understood a lot more than we knew. And we found out through the language table how much they understood. So that's how we started. There were professors there from university who teach the language. There were leaders in the language revitalization field who would stop in every now and then. There were ceremonial lodge keepers who would come. They knew that we were going to be there every Friday during lunch hour, and you never knew who would show up. You know, sometimes there was a few of us, sometimes there was 80 of us. You know, and we never actually scheduled anything for our language table. There was no set agenda or curriculum. It was just whoever showed up and whatever they were interested in. The only thing that we kept the same is that we ate and we introduced ourselves. So it was a real challenge when we went to lockdown through the pandemic. We hadn't done any online programming before. And so Danae was the one who showed us how to do online Zoom hosting, and we learned that. We're very lucky to have had Cayer work with us through that. We got an Indigenous language component grant for 2 years to do virtual language tables and to learn how to bring that sense of community online. And things got a bit more formalized. We went through a structure just because it's online. So it was much more kind of like taught, but we took a lot of the activities that were given to us by speakers and by teachers, and then we found a way to present those online. And a lot of our resources, the in-print resources that we were creating, we had to find a way to make online versions. So that's what we did over 2 years. Some of the participants are here with us, and we were going to demonstrate a little bit of what we've learned through that process. So Cayer, do you want to? Okay, so we'll do our cheesy intro one more time. Welcome to MICEC's mini language table demonstration. This is Anishinaabemowin. Let's speak Anishinaabe. This is one of the participants, actually not the Anishinaabe. I was trying to go Anishinaabe and Ininímowin. So a little bit Ininíw, a little bit Ojibwe. I'll let Sharissa, do you want to read out this one? This was one of our Cree language tables.
Absolutely. So this is from Janelle McCorister, one of our participants from Opaskwayak around the Paw area. Janelle always brought her baby too, which was really, really special. But one day after she wasn't able to attend for a little while, she went back to work off of mat leave. And she sent us this email. She said, thank you for teaching me. You and the whole team helped me learn the framework of Cree. I feel confident now using dictionaries and textbooks. I learned enough so that I can continue learning on my own and with other speakers. I'm so thankful. You and MICC are doing amazing work. I don't have enough words to express how grateful I am for your teachings. I also miss seeing you all. You brought so much laughter and light to my days. So sweet.
So a lot of what we learned and shared with people like Janelle, we learned from our teachers. Ininímowin is an Anishinaabe resource workbook that was created by Roger Roulette for MICEC. And it's a workbook that you can go through. It has a CD and it goes through a lot of the verbs and then how you change them into commands, how you would use them in sentences, how you talk about weather. And it's from Manitoba, so like a Manitoba dialect. So that's what I learned from and started to learn from. And it's actually Roger's intermediate language course that was offered through Indigenous Languages of Manitoba in partnership with the Winnipeg Public Library that I took as a student that informed the Bugaday book. So Roger did intermediate classes and he was teaching us VIA verb conjugations. And I was like, how do I get my son to learn verb conjugations? Like, you know, I find them intimidating and hard, and the best way to learn them is to drill them. But he didn't want to drill. So I was like, how could I make this interesting for him? And his favorite book at that time was Everybody Poops. That's just his type of humor. So, and I had heard from other language learners that they learned through actually verb conjugating and just writing out over and over. And I had known and I heard of classes of places with people who just wrote out all the verb conjugations for Bugaday or he or she or they singular fart. So that was what the basis of the intermediate course was doing all those verb conjugations, and we created it into a whodunit book. We actually found out that there was only so many conjugations that could fit in there. It was just like the first section of the class, but there was so many other conjugations that we wanted to know, like how do you make it negative? How do you make it plural? How do you make it like include me or not include me, or include you or not include you? We had all these questions about how to use the patterns that were taught. And so that's when I got together with my husband, who is a gamer. He likes playing D&D. He likes playing like Magic, this card game, Magic. And if you've seen the very first iteration of my instructions, which I don't think is very accessible, it's like 100 pages. It's based on the D&D workbook because that's how my husband he plays with his games, and I look at the instruction book and I was like, okay, how can we do this and learn these things in our language in a game format, and how do I explain them to people? Apparently it's a very small subset of people that will read a 100-page player's handbook, and not necessarily for my game. So recently we've revamped it. Sarah Brazauskas has helped us condense it into a couple pages in a really awesome format. So we'll get to that later. And then through partnerships with Ininíw, we based what we learned from the workbook and what we had learned from teachers who came to MICC to teach other speakers how to share the language that they carry. So we based the workbook based on that and delivered that at Ininíw through partnership with them in their Languages and Cultures program. Our Language is Who We Are, in Anishinaabemowin, in Ininímowin, and in Michif. So those are available, will be available free as a free resource through their program and through our program with Indigenous languages component. So next up. All right, so this is the game that we learned to learn some of the language that was shared with us in the Ininímowin, translated into Ininímowin. So if anybody wants to participate, feel free to leave your cameras on and we'll teach you a little bit of Ininímowin. You don't have to know anything in advance. You don't have to be able to say big sentences. If you don't want to participate, don't worry. You can keep your camera off. We'll start off. I don't know if Sharissa, do you want to be Kukum or would you like me to try to be Kukum?
Oh, is this the ball
Oh,
game?
this is not Kukum. This is a ball game. Miigwech Cayer.
Should we go over the words first?
Yeah.
Just refreshing something.
All right. Sharissa, do you want to go over the words with us?
For sure.
And then I'll be Kukum in Ojibwe. You can
You
do the
want
ball game.
3 times like Pat says?
Okay. Yeah. That's Pat Ningwans in her book. Is it Reclaiming Our Language? Reclaiming Our Territories, word for word. So her new book, if you're a speaker and you want to find a way to share the language without having to learn the grammar systems or the linguistic vocabulary or writing systems even, she has a lot of activities in there and a lot of suggestions, one of which is to repeat 3 times or 4 times a word when you're introducing new vocabulary.
Okay, let's get started then. Machitan. All right, so we have a few simple words, phrases here that we're going to go over. I'm going to go over each of them 4 times. I think Pat says 4. Okay, so for yes, we have ehe,
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 ehe.
ehe. Okay, right on. For no, we have namots.
Namots,
I'm still shaking my head, yes. Namots,
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 namots.
namots,
That's the longer version. You can also just say mots,
mots,
mots.
mots.
Egute. Perfect. Now, even though you're Anishinaabe, you'll know this one for sure. We have the Ininíw equivalent of ever sick. Come on, let's see. Oh, please. Daga sana, daga, ever sick. Mate,
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 mate.
mate,
Ooh, mate. Mate was
mate was.
perfect. Okay. And the next one, if someone says mate was, you can say namuna wihats,
Namuna we got.
namuna wihats,
Namuna we got.
namuna wihats,
Namuna we got.
namuna wihats.
Namuna we got.
Never. Mate was never. Namuna wihats. And then the next one is maybe. There's 2 here. The first one is pachacham,
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 pachacham.
pachacham.
Holy, you're getting pretty good. And the next one, the easier one, is maskut,
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 maskut.
maskut.
Right on. Egute. We're good. Ginagawa.
Okay. So for now, for the ball game, what Virginia taught us is when you have a small set, you could start with 3 words. Yes, no, and come on, please. You could add 4 or add 5 words. You can build this where you actually take away some of these words and you put in other words. This one is Ininímowin. It's N dialect, or also known as Swampy Cree. So you can use this for Anishinaabe. You can use this, it would be Eya, where we're from, it's Eya, Gawin, Dagasina. never, ganwe ka, or maybe ganabat. So you can use whichever language that you'd like to teach, but it's just responses that you use, and you don't have to know a lot of language to use it and to play this game, because we ask the questions in English, and in person we would have an actual ball. On Zoom we use a Zoom ball, and we ask questions. So the important part of asking questions is it has to be a yes/no answer or a better than answer. So the first thing I'll start off with one of our most divisive questions. Do raisins belong in Bannock? And I'll say, Sharissa, Gintam.
Good catch, eh?
Uh-huh.
I will say gawin and namots. Namots. Gawin, namots.
Ginaegwa.
All right.
Gintam.
Kale?
Same question? Right.
Do raisins belong on Bannock?
Amanjasa. Hey. Hey, yeah. Darcy, do raisins belong in Bannock?
Namona Bikak.
Namona we got.
Gawin.
So that's our demonstration of the ball game. You can ask a lot of questions, our favorites. What's your favorite question, Sharissa?
I have two.
Okay.
These are really controversial amongst the Ininíwek, okay? The first one is Tetley tea better than red rose? That one really gets the people going.
Namuna we got.
Yeah, namuna we got. And the other one is goose better than moose? Oh, that one's a really good one. Is goose better than the moose?
So you can come up with a whole bunch of different questions. I know that this is one of the strategies that my son's remote learning teacher had, was to have these little icebreakers in the morning to get things started. And we found they work good with adults too. Any kind of like little icebreaker that's like a warm up, where you get to use, even if you have a beginner language skill set, you can use that to communicate. You can use that to have fun. You can use that to play these games, these language learning games, and to start your circle off. So next one. Yeah. And then, for Ininímowin, this is the one that I was thinking about, is that the first one was taught to us by Virginia Pateman. She came to the language table, and she was one of the ones who, she is a fluent language speaker. That's her first language. And when she first started coming to the table, you know, Roger Roulette said that was one of my students, and she's really good. She has ECE learning, so she's a early childhood educator, and she's trained. She also carries the language, so she taught us a bunch of games to play at the language table, and that was one of them, the ball game. With Ininímowin in the workbook, you'll work through a whole bunch of verb conjugations, and 3 of the chapters are on imperative commands. So we turned that into a game to play with kids, to engage people online. We found out it works good with adults too, and ourselves. So first off, I guess I don't need this for this part, but if you talk about one person, we want to talk about one person. So not me, not the person that I'm talking to, but one other person. We can describe what they're doing. We can say, Anoki, Win is working. Wisene, Win is eating. Giwe, Win is going home. Neba, Win is sleeping. And Win is just he or she or one singular they. So one person other than the person speaking or the person spoken to. In Anishinaabemowin, you can add one letter and it becomes a command. If you want to move forward, Cayer. Miigwech. And Dennis Tartrand came to visit us doing the Doing Immersion Differently project. And what he shared with us is that to him, when we're talking about commands, he sees them as commands or invitations to do something. They don't have to necessarily be bossy. They can be an invitation. You're being invited to do this. So we'll go for commands to one person. And if you add an N, you are inviting one person to do something. So I'll go through Anokin, Wisenen, Giwen, and Niban. So we'll pretend that you guys are kids and we're going through our little game. So I'll first ask, this is my kukum scarf because I'm not really that old. So I'll just pretend to be a kukum. So I can play, this is our version of kukum ikido or grandma says. We're not listening for if I say anything on the end. We're listening for the N because the N means you do something. And if I say it without the N, I'm just telling you about something. So if I'm telling you information about somebody else, you can say, And if I'm inviting you to do something, then you can show me that you're doing it. Okay, so let's see. Kale. Anokin. Nishin. Sharissa. Wisene.
Oh, ka.
Dan. Wisenen. Nishin. Let's see, who do we have here? Wawate Kishikok. Neba. Patricia. Neban. Miwe. Darcy. Anoki. Miwe. That's the way. Good job. So you could do that that's already one game. And you're listening and you're engaging the people that you're talking with, the learners, the participants. You're engaging them to listen for that N at the end. So all of the games that we play, we try to incorporate the language right in there, the structure of the language. The next one. Yeah, kudades. Do we have commands is plural? So that's the other thing. You can just switch it. It doesn't have to be an N, it can be a G. So if you switch it to a G, you're inviting more than one person to do it. So this is our second level of our game. So we'll go through the same words because it's the pattern. It's not only the words. I get overwhelmed as a learner with word lists. I try really hard. And, I really try to memorize those word lists. We've created a bunch of Quizlets so that you can practice on your deck to maintain the vocabulary that we give you. But when you learn a pattern, then you can double up any word you've invested in. So if you've invested a lot of time, I won't tell you how many times I have to repeat a word to be able to remember it at recall, but it's many, 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 many times. So if I've invested that much in one word, I want to learn these patterns so then I can use it in a bunch of different ways. Because my vocabulary is kind of small, I like to use it well. It's not the size of my vocabulary, it's what I do with it. So we have, here we go. We'll start off. So remember, if I say anoki, that means that somebody else is working. You can say, If I say anokin, I'm inviting you to work. If I say anokik, I'm inviting all of you to work. So, and you can help encourage all your other cousins. If they're not listening to Kuko or Kuku, you can help. So I'll start off with, let's see, we'll go the other way. Darcy, we sene. Pat, we senen. Wawateki shigok, we sinek. Oh, we sinek. Nishin, we sinek. Oh, nishin. Giwe. Dan, giwe. Miwe, Ampe, come back. Okay. Sharissa, giwek.
Ginawa, kay ginawa.
Cayer, niba. Noa niba.
Oh.
Good job. So that's everybody. We can also go to the next one. Our collective commands. So when Kukum wants to do it too, we can use that. So we'll go, it's everybody, including the speaker. And all I have to add is a da. So we know that because we know Anishinaabemowin da, right? Let's speak Ojibwe. We can do that with this too. So we'll test your memory again and we'll see what we can do. I'll start out with Kale.
Oh,
Kale.
There's a typo.
Oh, good. This is, which one do we have?
Weakness says play.
Ooh, good job. Do you want to fix it? We'll show you how the language table, this is like real live language table. I highly recommend Google Documents because you can go in and you can catch your typos and also your participants can help you. There we go. Yes.
This is a true experience.
I did that on purpose. Just kidding. Going on to. All right. So Kale, anoki.
Oh.
Sharissa, anokin. Dan, anokig. Anokig. That's good. You got everybody. And wawategi shigok. Anokita.
Nukam.
Yeah. So we used to do this in person at the center. We kind of had all these little games that either we created or we based on what we were learning or that were shared to us by teachers and speakers. So we had all these little games and we turned them into icebreakers. I used to be really painfully shy. And most people don't think that that's true, but the first time I started nursery school, I stayed in the coat closet for 1 whole week. I was so shy. I would like go in the closet, stay in the closet with all the coats and the boots, and I'd listen to everything that they were doing. And then as soon as it came recess, they would all come and I'd go out with them. And then everybody would come in and I'd go into the closet and stay in the closet and listen. And I do that lunchtime, and I do that, and whenever the coats left, I left, and whenever the coats came in, I stayed in. And every time my parents asked me what happened that day at school, I would tell them all the things that I heard happening, but I was like really shy to interact with people, and shyness really is hard for a language learner. When you're shy. So one of the ways that I kind of get over my shyness, I took training in improv. So I did improv and icebreaker classes, and they teach you like all these little warm-up things and to start warmed up. And those are the kind of skills and those are the kind of activities that we drew on to create these kind of language learning games. So one of the things that I like about Gukum Ikedu is even if you kind of make a mistake, you can just kind of signal to somebody and then they can change. You can say, hey, come on, like, and help, and everybody can help. I usually don't change it up. I do it in order, and I kind of keep the visual there so they can read. But for anybody who's been in language table, we slowly take it away. Every month we'll start off and you get all the scripts. We'll go through all of the vocabulary. We'll say it 4 times. You can keep your mic off and, you know, follow our speakers, our first language speakers and our learners. And I'm usually the one being taught the word. A first language speaker is teaching me. And you can keep your camera off or you can keep your mic off and you don't have to say anything. And slowly, like you come the next week and we took away the, we're going to actually play it without any of the PowerPoints. We put it in order so that everybody's comfortable. By the 3rd week, we're mixing them up, just throwing them out anyway. And then by the 4th week, we get our participants to lead so that they're speaking and not just responding. And we do it in small groups through breakout rooms, but those are kinds of things that we try to do to encourage all of our learners, whether or not you're shy, you know, because that's the thing. I think if you teach for young people, people of every age will feel comfortable learning. If you teach for shy people, then everybody will feel comfortable. So that's kind of how I draw upon it. Cayer, what do we have on next? I forgot. I wasn't actually going to play. I was just talking about playing with us. He's so good. All right. So this is the Boogaday game. And it's one of the card games that we designed. And it goes for the language too. And I drew on what language learners who are much more advanced than me, who've been able to come from not speaking the language to fluent. I always ask them, like, how did you do that? And Dr. Brian McGinnis was one of the ones who said, you know, you can't use English. You've got to bypass English and just not use English. Use visuals, use contextual learning. So that's one of the things we did with the Boogaday game. We made it so it's just a visual. And I don't know, Sharissa, do you want to share on how I started out I was super excited. I thought I cracked the code, like,
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, like Da Vinci Code Breakers or something. Nobody else thought so, though.
When Donis first started the Boogaday game, it was literally like this cheap little deck of cards, and then she put like little stickers on it, and they just look so cheap. But she would walk around and be like, "Do you guys want to play the Boogaday game with me? I created this really cool thing." we would play it and nobody got it. Like everyone was like, "Oh, that's really great, Donis. Thank you." But we couldn't see the vision until the cards were beautiful and ready to go.
Yeah. Sarah Brazauskas designed the cards. And I don't know, for some reason, like nobody got it. I was like, okay, if there's a red dot, then you're included. And then if there's no red dot, you're not included. So conjugate the verb. I don't know. Now I'm realizing why it didn't work. Conjugate the word, and it could be inclusive or exclusive according to whose card is played and what's on there. And you could use any verb, and you could use any conjugation, and you could use any form, and it was like all this. And I think I just had to go step by step, you know? And so we focused on one verb, bugade, because we could have a visual representation of that. So you can see on here, I don't know if you have the little pointer, Kale?
The what? Sorry.
The pointer.
Oh yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah. And then if you can see on the left, you can see the decks, the deck of cards. You deal it out to three players. We tested it with a lot of people, and we found that this is the most important, the triangle of three, Nēhinawēwin, Win. So as long as you got that down, you could add a fourth, and you could have Winawa, and all the other conjugations that go along with that. But this three triangle of Nēhinawēwin, Win, and how they're combined is really difficult for beginner learners. So here we have Nēhin is the person who's speaking. Gin is the person who's listening and being spoken to, and off to the side is Win, the person who's being spoken about. But they all have a deck of cards, and they flip over the cards all together. And you can see here, Gin has a fart. Nēhin and Win don't have a fart. So you can see Nēhin saying to Gin, you have a fart. And that's it. That's the game. You just flip over the cards, you look at who's farting, and then you describe who's farting. So Nēhin describes to Gin who's farting. That's the object of the game. And if everybody's farting, you can say "Kakinawia," and everyone. And then if nobody's turned over a fart card, they're all blank, you can say "Gawinawia," and nobody's farting. And you know what? As soon as I had those fart cards, Sharissa and her blank looks, and she's like, I don't get it. I don't know what you're saying. And it was so funny because she'd have a fart cloud sitting right in front of her. And I was saying, Gin, Kipoket. And she's like, she couldn't say, I don't get it. Because it's sitting right there. And then, so it kind of was a breakthrough, I think. And when you flip through, it's random. So it's randomized. So you have to just pull it from your memory, and you're describing something visual, and you're describing something random, and it happens all in a sequence really fast. So it's a way to get kids to drill conjugations in a way that's fun. And I would hope that in your day-to-day living, you don't have that many opportunities to describe that word all in a row, but you can simulate it with the cards. And there's like 12 different levels in our beginner deck, but they're repeated twice. So first we're describing what we see. And once you're comfortable with that, you can level up to level 2. And that's where you put the cards on your forehead. So you can see the level 2 circle that Sarah made, and there's Nēhin. And Nēhin is asking Gin, Nina, is it me? And Nēhin can't see the card on top of their head. It's like heads up, right? That game. And Gin has to answer Eya or Gawin. And so they're looking at the card and they describe it. And then Nēhin has to understand, oh, okay, so Gin told me gawin. So I don't have a fart card, and you don't have a fart card, and maybe Ween has a fart card. So maybe then Neen says, Ween etta, only Ween. And when you're sitting there, they don't see the cards, none of them. And then Ween, they're listening. They say, Ween etta. So Ween has to pay attention and think, oh, they talked about me. I have a fart card, and imagine the fart on their forehead. And then they go, that's it. That's the object of the game. To understand when you're being talked about and make a fart sound. And if you don't have a fart sound and you don't think you have a fart card in the head, you're not included in that conversation, then you go poo fai. Poo fai. And then when nobody else is looking, you can take that card down and you look and you can see that card, and if it is what you imagined it was. And you can be wrong and nobody will know, really. And you just move on to the next deck. You self-correcting. So it doesn't put a teacher in the position of making you right or wrong, which can shut you down. And we learned that through our Doing Immersion Differently project. We talked to different immersion teachers, and that was one of the things that was said, is they shared with us, like, correcting really shuts down students. And so this is an opportunity to self-correct and then continue on with the learning in a way that's silly and fun. And I don't know, I'll let Sharissa show you the Puegetu. We also released it in Ininímowin. And the next slide, I think, has the page.
Oh, nice. So this is the what do you call it again, Donis? The quick guide?
Start guide.
The quick start guide. I think it's just right on the top.
It's Sarah's instructions rather than my 100 pages.
Yes, this is the pretty quick start guide that Sarah put together based on Donis's 1,000-page Dungeons and Dragons instruction guide. So it's really nice.
Making Ojibwe language learning easy.
Yeah. So it's very cute. All of the photos in there to help you get started. All of the simple instructions for round 1 and 2. And I wanted to say too, there's also in the later levels, you can play competitively. And for me, that's what I needed. Like, the first levels where you're just like learning, like, that's cool. But when I'm competing and there's something to win, then it's game over. So that was what was really helpful to me, is playing competitively. Even in Ojibwe, I'm pretty deadly.
Yeah, you beat me when Leonard Monkman came to interview us. In Ojibwe, she beat me at my own game. But I guess that's when you know it's like your game works.
Yes.
But you can play against once you get comfortable speaking and reading the cards, then Nina and Geen can compete with each other and read it from their perspective. So you flip, and then the first one to say it correctly wins those 3 cards as a trick. And then you can keep playing, and then you can figure out who does it. And even with Seed, we had the youth junior facilitators before COVID. We actually did a tournament where we had multiple tables based on like poker tournaments, and they were all playing, and then the winners from each tournament went up, and then we kept going until we had a winner. So you could do that as well and play like competitively for anybody with that kind of spirit. I think you can click on that link, Kale, and it'll take you to the website with the levels.
And the best thing about it is that there's never a loser, because you always win the language.
Yes. Even every time we make mistakes, that's the best way to learn. Like, if you listen to all of our oral histories and about, Nananabojo or Wawinabojo or Wasagijak, they learn through making mistakes. And it's the same way with us and language learners. We make lots of mistakes, but those mistakes are memorable. Those ones are gonna leave. So I think you have to accept the cookies. And then for every level, it can be as simple as level 1. Level 1 isn't very intimidating at all. You just look into it and you can play with just a handful of words. So there is a fart, Nina, me, Gina, you, Weena, they or them singular, she, he, him, her, egwa, and the equivalent of pufai, yow.
You said that just like Dennis Day. Yeah.
I know. Well, he has. I've been listening to his recordings. Yow. You start sounding like your teachers. Gakinao, yak. Everybody. Gakinao. Oh. Namatsawayak. Or matsawayak. Nobody. So that's how much you need to play around. First, second, and competitively. You can play 3 different levels of game with, and then you can move on to level. And we put, I do want to say, we put the a lot of our resources. We try to, if somebody says that's not the way I say it, this is the way I say it. We try to include all the different ways. So learners, we encourage learners, you know, when you come across those things, don't let that feel bad about whatever it is that you've learned from one speaker. Just collect them. Be greedy. This is the one time in Indigenous culture, I'll encourage you, be greedy. Learn all the different ways to see them, you know, collect them all and share them with your friends so that they aren't big mountains, but little tiny steps that you just use. So you can code switch when you're talking with speakers from different communities, or you use different vocabularies, or have different meanings for the words that they use. So that's why we have like a big listing. And it's just kind of my style where you could say this or this or this or this. So we try to include all of that when we see it. And then you can show them level 23 maybe, or 24. By the time you work through the levels, you'll know singulars, plurals, positives, negatives, questions, and statements. So you'll be able to say all of this, not just you, me, but is there a fart? Did I fart? Am I gonna fart? They did not fart. We all did not fart. I am not farting. You're not farting. You can keep going. They are not gonna fart. You are not gonna fart. Everybody, all of us. So you can say all of that. You can say it negative and you can say it positive. By the end of the game, with one verb, you'll be able to make over 100 sentences in Ojibwe. And that's a really detailed list of sentences you can make in Ojibwe with like only a handful of words that you started with, like one word and a handful of patterns. Then, and what's really cool about it is after that, if you learn every verb that you learn in that pattern, then you can make 80 different sentences with that verb. So you power up all of the patterns. All the patterns will power up every word you learn in a vocabulary list. And I love that because it takes me a long time to learn a new word. And I think maybe just scroll down if you, I think we couldn't get it. It's too big to get it all at once, but you can download the Puegato audio. It has vocabulary from a first language speaker, Dennis Day. That's why I sound like him when I say yow. But you can, so it's first language speakers audio who've provided that audio, so you can learn at every level. That's it. I think we should go through whatever you guys want to go to now. Sharissa, Cayer, I think we prepared too much. Too many slides. We never get to the end.
Should we see what's next?
Yeah. That's a card game. I think the next one is, oh yeah. I think that was your favorite, Sharissa. Hey,
Yeah, this is my favorite.
do you wanna? I can go through the hands for the nin, gin, win, Ininíwin, Ininíwin, and then you can do this one.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, so back up, Kale. Me, Gwetch. So this is the triangle that's really, really important. If you're gonna learn how to speak in Ojibwe, you need to learn these three perspectives. Nin, these are our pronouns. Nin, I use one hand. Nin, gin, win. Yeah, nin, gin, win. So nin is the person who's speaking. And Nina is Donis to me, but it's Darcy to you, right? So Nin, Gin is the person you're speaking to. You at home, Gin, and Ween, the person that we're speaking about. Nin, Gin, Ween. And then you can mix them up. So if you go to the next one, you put them together. All right. Now the English translations are really confusing, but that has nothing to do with the Ojibwe because you actually have a singular and plural you. There could be you or you, which is more than one you, and it's the same word. Or it could be just one other person, but we have three different words. We have she, he, and they for that one person. Or it could be two people, and that could also be they, right? So that's kind of confusing. And then we could mean me and my imaginary friend here. Or we could mean me and you and my imaginary friend here, or just me and you, right? So we has multiple meanings. So the English is really confusing, but what's super cool is that the Ojibwe isn't. You have just one word for each one, nin, gin, and ween. And when you combine them, you just have one word for those combinations. So there's Ininímowin, me and my imaginary friend, Ininímowin, 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 Ininínawa, Winawa. And the way that I remember this is Nin, and then I come in, Ininímowin, 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 Ininímowin. And the way I remember these ones are like, hoa. I don't know if everybody heard that word. I heard that word growing up. Hoa from my uncles. Hoa ginawa. There's lots of yous. Hoa ginawa. Hoa winawa. So I don't want to make a big deal about me, but I'll make a big deal about you. Hoa ginawa. Hoa winawa. Ininímowin, Ininímowin, Ininínawa, Winawa. And if you see me walking down the street or sitting at the bus or sitting at the doctor, that's what I'm doing. I'm language learning, excuse me, I'm language learning in my head. And I use my hands because we had a teacher, Stella Neff, she came in and shared with us about total physical response. And so I use my body to help me to understand that. And I can use that, it doesn't have to be just those words. I can use that to understand like the Bugade game. So I could be practicing so I could beat Sharissa next time I see her in person. So instead of saying me, I can say I fart. Nibogit, gibogit, bugite, nibugatemin, gibugatemin, gibugatem, bugatewak. So you can do that. You can do that with your questions. Yan, 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 ot, and yank, yank. I've got to practice. Yan, yank, yake, wat. Or if you're Cree, chick. So we have, and you have to do the K. Yank. Is that right?
Yank.
Yank. Yank.
Yak.
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 Oh, yak.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yak.
chick.
Yak. Chick.
Listen. Okay, so that's what you can do with your hands, and then now that'll hopefully make sense when Sharissa leads us in Show Me and Tell Me.
Okay. This is one of my favorite things to do with the language table crew. They even got me to do it in Anishinaabemowin, which was funny. And I got pretty dang good at it, I will say. But for today, since we only have a short amount of time, we're just going to be working with Neen, Geen, Ween, Ininímowin, Ininíwin, Ininíwa, Winawa. Hey, yeah, we're just going to be working with those. So I am going to say, Wabindaishik, you all show me. Wabindaishik. And then I'll go Neen, Geen, Ween, and so on. Okay. So Wabindaishik, Ween. Show me. Hey, yeah. Oh boy, you're fast. Ooh, get Ween. Me away. Or meet you. How do you say like egwite in Ojibwe again? I forget.
Me away.
Me away. Okay. Me away. Wabin.
I don't know. Nobody says that to me.
I'll say it to you,
Mikoya?
Donis. Wabinda shake Neen. Hey, Neen. Wabinda shake Geen. Hey, Geen. Wabinda shake Ininímowin. Ooh, me away. Hey, good there, me away. Wabinda shake Ginawa. Hey, Ginawa. Wabinda shake Ininímowin. Ooh, pretty good. Last one, Wabinda shake Winawa. Oh, pretty good. Winawa. And when you get real deadly, you can also do Wabinda shik bugade. Wabinda shik nibugadim. Wabinda shik bugadim. Oh, you already got it.
Gibugitamin.
Gibugadimin. Or gibugit. Sorry, I meant gibugit. I'm getting ahead of myself. Nimbugit. Gibugit. When you're really deadly, but you're already deadly. So the Wabinda shig show me, that is like the equivalent of a multiple choice test. I studied psychology. I can't remember what it's called. I'm super rusty, but that's basically the equivalent of a multiple choice test. You can also move over to Ininímowin, which is straight recall. It requires a completely different part of your brain, and it's a little bit more work, but you can also do Ininímowin, you all tell me. Ininímowin.
Neen.
Ininímowin.
Geen.
Ininímowin.
Ween.
Ininímowin.
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 Ininímowin. Ininímowin.
Ininímowin.
Ininímowin. Egwite. Ininímowin.
Winawa.
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 Egwa. Ininímowin.
Winawa.
Ginawa.
Ginawa.
Egwite. Me away. That's my favorite thing to do in language table. It's always such a good time. Wabindashig and Windamawashig. And I hope I'm saying those right. I feel like I sound so Cree.
Oh,
Sounds good.
me gwitch. Manasin.
Been awesome.
Oh, and then let's see, what do we have next? Oh, yeah, the actual book. Anybody like story time? This is I recorded it. I screen recorded it, so you'll hear my little mouse ticks because I'm not the most tech savvy person. We look pretty because of Sarah Barzaskis. But we're not really all that tech savvy, or at least I'm not. But I did record it so that I'm hoping that it'll play for you. And this is the voice of Virginia Pateman. Nope.
The Bugite Book, written by Donis Kennedy and Anna Paronto, translated by Roger Roulette, illustrated and designed by Sarah Barzaskis, voiced by Virginia Pateman. Produced by the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Center, MICEC, 2019. If you're reading along at home, turn the page when you hear this sound. Bugitimina indicate. Ginina indicate.
Daga Gawinin
Iketo Shigag.
Ginawana
Iketo Shigag. Gawin. Daga Gawin Ininímowin. Iketo Wagwabuzug.
Ininíwe
Iketo Wagwabuzug.
Kawin gutanin.
Iketa Opache.
Win guta pugite.
Iketa Opache.
Iya. Ninawa na bukit.
Iketa Uchins. Pufai.
Bye
Indakatamin Ninawin.
Oh wow.
Iketa Uchins.
Oh sin.
Iketa Wabuzuns.
Kabugitamin gutin. Kikitin na.
Iketa Uchins.
Meaning ke. Kabugitamin gutin.
Iketa Wabuzuns.
Miigwech ni cheese.
Iketa Uchins.
Eya. Meaninge.
Meaninge.
Eya
Eya.
Meaninge
Eya.
Indictamin Ninawin.
Miigwech ni chuaganak.
Iketa Uchins.
Nabugitamin Ninawin. Kihin Anish Kibuit na?
The end.
We made that book to help a lot of parents are language learners themselves. So that is where we want our young people to be learning the language, is in the home before they even go to school or before they even go to program. That's where we want to get back to. But where we are now, through no fault of our own, many of us don't have the language to share with our little kids. So we created that book to help. It's one of those books that if your kid is like my kid, they want to read over and over again. There's glossary in the back that has like translations to English. There's also a story legend that'll have all of the sentences and then translated into English by Roger. And so we have all of that. You can read the story first in English. You can then go into reading it in the language so it's familiar. But you can use the video or the audio, and then you can slowly get to the point where you can read it yourself or your kids can read it. So that's where we're working on now with my son. He's reading it to other little kids. So he's reading the book for him now. So that's kind of like, we wanted to have everything. Like we wanted to have the language there. We wanted to have the glossary there. We wanted to have the story there. But we didn't want it easy to read it in English. We have everything there for you to do it if you want to do it. But if you want to do it in the pretty pictures, you're going to have to work your way to reading it in Anishinaabemowin. So that's kind of our encouragement. But we have all the support. And I'll tell you something, it might be too much information, but every morning we practice that word in my house. And it's different every time. But, you know, like, so we have all these real world, if you learn that from this book, there's all these real world experiences you have, you can describe in the language, and it comes and it's like a random pop-up quiz. Anytime you hear this odd sound or this odd smell, you can have a discussion when you're out and about doing your grocery shopping or wherever it is that you are. And the kids comprehend. You know, so at least my kid comprehends. Very fluent in farts at our house. I want to show you a little bit of our TikTok. This is a resource that took us a long time because we're working with designers, we're working with first language speakers, we're working with like audio recorders, and we're putting everything together. We workshop it before we finalize it among teachers and speakers, and we take a lot of their feedback into account. The short stuff, that's what Sharissa's that's the more fast speed stuff, getting it done and staying hip and staying current. That's not my area. That's Sharissa, so let her take it away.
I'm not very hip or current either. The only thing hip about me is my hips that crack all the time. So we started doing TikTok at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And it was just to stay connected with our community while our doors were closed. And even when we were back in the office, it just kind of took off. People loved it. We shared language videos in Ininímowin and Anishinaabemowin. And it's kind of funny because you can see our learning journeys along the way. And we have to redo TikToks because there's some that are pretty rough on there. But, regardless, they're pretty cool. They're pretty cute. And something that we've done a little more recently is, we also just do like, we have like culturally relevant humor on there. We like to joke around with people and get people laughing while they're learning the language too. So Donna's put 2 examples in the slides here. These are more recent ones, so I'll get Cayer to show them.
What happened to hello? How are you? My name is. What happened to that?
Yeah, that's so true.
I missed that. I missed those classes.
Seriously, you get into intermediate and it's like, okay, let's conjugate some verbs. Like, what?
I'm going to immersion on Monday.
Yeah. And then the next one we have here.
The short A, is followed by the long A. Perfect. There's also the short I, and the long
Learning words and sounds is very important, especially when learning Ininímowin and Anishinaabemowin. You got to make sure that double vowel and SRO are pronounced perfectly. So those are two. I'll plug our TikTok in the chat here. We're micec.mb. This is something in the next year that I'm actually going to be spending a little bit more time on. I miss our TikTok community. I miss being able to engage the youth and kind of bring them into our language learning community that we've created through the language tables as well. So they're a group that we haven't really been able to serve as much. We're open 8:30 to 4:30. The youth are in school, they're busy, they got stuff to do. So I get them on TikTok and I pull them in like, come here.
I'm
Play
back.
with us. Yeah. Get over here.
I think too, it's nice when we can respond to people when they have comments and stuff. I think I love that. And when people take it and run with it, we've had people who've created TikToks based on like the language tables in their own, and they get their own circle and they kind of become sharing what they know. I'll also, I don't know, Kale, could you just go and show our YouTube account?
What happened to hello?
Yeah, one sec.
We are conscious of like, we're learners and my comfort level is beginners. I really want to encourage beginners. The teachers that I learned from, a lot of them, now don't want to do beginner classes or kids classes. Like a lot of our speakers are getting older. And so what we've been doing is engaging them, and then we make space for our speakers, like we'll provide honorariums to first language speakers to sit with us as we do these and then correct us, so that they can correct us and that participants can see us being corrected and being okay with that, and learning ourselves so that they can do that. But we also want to provide programming for learners who are more advanced than we are. And so to do that, we have programs that we have for advanced language learners. One of them was doing immersion differently. And you'll see Waking Up Ojibwe, Pebom Benes was, and a lot of the learners there was featured. It was during COVID, so it's like COVID style. You'll recognize the Zoom room, but I don't know if you skip a little bit ahead. We visited people who are already doing immersion. So, and checked out their techniques and highlighted them and worked with, I don't think this is one with a video on there. I think that was when we just had audio. I think this was Andeg Maldru who was leading this one.
Did you hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
My goodness. How kindas Gabian Soma and the Nama de Bing Oma Gigayan Oma Gigaya Oma Yan Sago Winda Shaw Abishkamakun Singa Bimewina Rede Kuzi Wigamagun sing. Yeah, gonna win him on non-way wini. Yeah. Like this guy. Kuwaidish. Das walk.
Medasa, Medas.
Medas walk.
Medasa, Medas, like me.
Yeah. Oman and Injing. Ashe, Gijunian.
I need that.
Masha Bekan, Mashkiki Winani, Kitao Mama.
We have to go Najake Oman there. Going Bakan Nawia. Dun Kisi Oma. We have to go Nin. Yeah, going Bakan Nawia. Ja, Maji bezorg.
Anish muskike apsigo numisagana nanik.
Gan machine gi deba magus yeah au Fiji waganishish. Yeah.
Oh, miigwech.
Mm.
So this is during COVID. We were supposed to have an immersion camp, but COVID happened at the center. So we had online camp, and we went and visited people who are already doing language immersion. So we visited over at Waking Up Ojibwe. We went and saw immersion for kids where they were doing it online, and we saw all these different teachers. And we just asked teachers who were finding different ways to work with immersion online, and they were all doing it differently. And we just sat in and said, hey, you want to invite some of your students and to demonstrate your techniques, what you're doing, what you're learning together, kind of like what we did here. We got a little taste of our language table. They got we were able to share a taste of all the different teachers who did immersion and the way that we did it. And we have transcripts, we have translations, we have activity kits, we have vocabulary lists so that you're able to follow along. You can download those off our website, but we've been doing that. And we just dropped 16 Nēhinawēwin language videos from this last year, where we've been working on Cree Language and Culture Camp in Nēhinawēwin at Grand Rapids. We are hosted by Ron Cook and Stella Neff and other elders from their community for 2 weeks. And Desiree Brightnose from Tilted Teepee helped us showcase that. So that's what we have online in our YouTube. And stay tuned. We're always working very slowly, especially when it comes to transcribing. Even though we have help from our teachers, I find everybody has their own kind of writing style, and every speaker has their own kind of like language that they use. And what we want to do is go through and make sure that it's accessible for language learners, that the speaker can share the language that they carry, that we can transcribe what they've shared with us, but also in a way that they can reach out to different dictionaries and find it, whether it's spelt differently or in a different writing system, that they can use it as a jumping off point to their resources. Because eventually what we want is that every learner is going to take that journey on their own, to find out what's my learning style, to find out who are the teachers that I click with, to find out what do I want to do? Do I want to learn through transcription? Do I want to learn through immersion? Do I want to memorize farts or whatever it is that floats your boat for the moment? Like, we can't all do everything. So it's like all of us, where am I at now? And what do I work on? What do I want to work on now? And how do I want to work with it? And who can I go to and to be able to help me with that? So we try to showcase all of those teachers in that way. Miigwech. That's it, Darcy. If you have any questions, I haven't checked on chat.
There wasn't too many questions and thank yous and whatnot, but we can open it up if anyone has any questions or comments.
Ooh, Lloyd is here.
Yeah,
one of our
bonjour,
speakers. Bonjour, Lloyd. Any corrections?
I mean,
Of course.
Dance.
I also noticed the famous Janelle McCorster is here as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so nice.
Dance.
That's it. Cree takeover. Woo.
Sherry.
I just want to say, like, the games that you guys pulled out, working, I know in our area, and Jason Jones is on here right now, and he works with like grades 7, 8 and up to some adult programs and just some tables. But those games can be like my little kids, my little 0 to 6s, as long as they can talk, they can start playing those games. But they're also good for adults too. So I'm definitely going to take those and use them and run with them. And yeah, I just want to say you guys are so busy. So thank you for giving us your time. I know how much you guys do, and definitely a source of inspiration. I know I keep saying that I want to make TikToks for my families that I work with and just kind of show how I use language with my kids in the morning or how I put it into routine. And it's just sitting down and doing it. Like, not so much thinking about it and just like popping up my camera and pressing record and putting it together and just doing that kind of stuff. But you guys are so inspirational. Definitely, I miss your classes. And I feel like we go through highs and lows of learning. And right now I'm just like more admin, kind of getting through, I'm doing some research stuff. And I'm like, oh, now all this is making me miss classes again in that active learning stage. I do think we need to take some breaks through it. I feel like I've learned along my language journey is me anyways, I can't just learn 24/7, 365 days of the year. I gotta kind of go in waves a little bit, but this has made me miss it. Now I gotta get back into it. I have to now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things I hear over and over again is to be gentle. Be gentle with ourselves, be gentle with each other. It's emotional. It's, you know what, we're learning through trauma. Whether we're a language learner, whether we're a speaker who's maintained the language, whether we're a teacher or somebody who's sharing the language, all of it we're connecting through trauma. So it's good to just continue to be gentle. It's a collective language revitalization. Like, that's something we can't do alone. I can't do it in the cook closet.
Not no more.
I have to come out because you have to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah, eventually, hey.
Yeah, you have to make mistakes. You have to like just take risks. And when you have the ability to do that, there's lots of time you can listen. So I love that. I love the videos. I love the audio. I like just listening to the transcripts. I like listening to our first language speakers and their voices over and over again. Like, I have it might be dated technology now, but I have an OG pod. It's like an iPod that I downloaded all of my Ojibwe to. And so I can just listen to it and I don't have to look it up. I don't have to know where it is on my phone. I can just and I don't even have to, you don't have to understand it. Like, you don't have to comprehend it. You can just listen. You know, that's my favorite sound. Like, that's what keeps me wanting to learn more is memories of being at my grandparents' house. And I would hear like everybody would come over to visit. And usually we were in from out of town. So a lot of people came to my grandparents and they would stay up at night. And me and all my little cousins, they laid down the blankets like this in the living room. And then we laid down like little sardines and then they had blankets on top and we were laying there like, you know, and all tucked up and with each other. And then in my grandpa's house, it was like open on the tops of all the walls. They didn't go to the tops. You could hear everything. And then they were in the kitchen and they were playing cards and speaking the language and laughing and having fun. And just, there was like this din of like multiple conversations happening. And like, it's just a beautiful sound. It's a beautiful sound. And I finally got to the level where I can once in a while joke around intending to in the language. Or if I'm listening,
that's a big step.
Or if I'm listening, I could understand. There's lots of them where there's visual evidence of this. There's recorded evidence of my just blank face going like, like not even knowing what's going on, or I'm like,
that awkward.
That awkward, like, not understanding, but there are moments where I get it, and there's moments when I can participate, even if it's just a gigin,
Yeah.
you know, and that journey is just, I think every little bit we do counts.
I agree. I'm at that point where I can listen to speakers or listen to a story and I don't necessarily know what's going on. I'm like, a plural noun is doing something to a plural set of nouns. Like, you know what I mean? In the past.
Yeah.
And I don't get like what's going on, but I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get the gist of some things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm celebrating that because that.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to celebrate along the way, I think.
It was a huge step for me just to be able to recognize what part was a word.
Yeah.
Like where one word stopped and the other word started. Like, I didn't know what the words were, but I knew that it started here.
It was separated. Yeah.
And then I'd heard it before. And then this one, it was like, and you know, I've been starting to transcribe now. It was kind of like a forced thing to have to do through work, but now I'm doing it on my own. And I love that kind of interaction because I'm not as stressed out. Speakers have sent me little audio clips and then I get to listen to it over and over and over. I can slow it down and I can listen on half speed or my favorite, which is 0.75. If you change it over to QuickTime, you can listen to it at 0.75 and it still sounds okay, but it sounds a little bit slower. And then I can transcribe that and then translate it. And then I haven't gotten to the point of answering, but I can be like, hey, look, this is what I did. I feel like a little kid with like something to put on the fridge. Look at this transcript. And they'll make some corrections and like, that's good.
Yeah, that's great.
Bonjour, Lloyd.
Hi, I was on my computer and I couldn't get the voice thing, the mic, so I'm on the tablet.
Anine, nice to see you.
Bonjour. Sorry I was late. I was intending to come right away, but then I forgot. I'm old.
No worries, you're always right on time, Lloyd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you want to share anything?
What are we talking about?
Just the language table.
Oh yeah, the language. Well, I came on it. When was that? Last year? Was it 2 years ago? Anyway, I was scared. I came in as a beginner because I thought that's where I was, because I live off reserve and I haven't been on the res I haven't lived on the res for a long time. So, and I thought it wasn't good enough. And then when I was listening to you, I realized, hey, I'm really good at this.
If they can do it, I can do it.
But what I wanted to learn was I wanted to I found out I can speak the language good, but what I wanted to learn was to read it, because I can't read it. Like it wasn't something that was available back then. So yeah. And I've started it. I've started reading and all that. I went to that trail last year and I was able to read some of that Broken Head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to impress my kids. So.
Ooh, that's good. I don't know. I love it too. We find a lot of speakers, they come to table or they come to beginner classes and they might not know how much they know, like, you know, because maybe they're thinking about themselves in relation to their parents or their grandparents and then not realizing how much they carry. But yeah. It's really helpful for us.
Yeah. I know. I was when we were growing up, we weren't allowed to talk it. Like we weren't. It was discouraged. So, and so that's why I was reluctant to speak. You know. And now me, my wife and I both speak. So, but she was raised in boarding school and I wasn't. So.
Yeah.
And she can't hear anymore. But so.
Yeah.
But we're both old, so.
Yeah, we really enjoy having you at the language table. And we do have, that's kind of where we want to go, is to have more immersion, short immersion, and then also for people who they understand, they comprehend, but maybe they don't, for whatever reason, like they don't feel comfortable daily speaking. And just give a real safe space, give a real safe, encouraging, comfortable space to share. Because they can pick up more from the language, like Lloyd listening to our teachers could pick up more than I could, and then help me to maintain what I've been taught too, and help all of us. So I think that's really important, is to know that there's multiple generations of people and that there's multiple learners and speakers, and that we all need help to help each other. And we all have something to give, even if it's that reason to come out and share.
Mhm.
You know?
I've and also I've some words that I don't know, or I used to know. I'm able to check them on that Ojibwe dictionary, and it makes sense. So like sometimes it isn't exactly but the way I heard it before, but it's, you know, like I pick it up. So
Miigwech, Lloyd.
yeah.
And then I don't know, Sharissa or Cayer, did you want to share a little bit about the table? I feel like I've been on the whole time.
I don't think I have much to add. I'm just really glad that we could come and share a little bit about what the table is like, you know, be goofy with you guys. That's the best part of the language table. You know, I've known this from studying psychology and through research and stuff, but you really see it when you learn the language, that laughter is so important when learning. When you're laughing and you're trying to take something in to learn something, it just makes it so much easier. And we see that so often, like that knowledge is put into practice in the language tables. And I'm glad we got to bring that and share that with you a little bit here. But that's it, I could say.
I know there's a lot of humor when you meet with other people, other Aboriginal people, speakers, because there's so much that you miss when you don't understand, or you only understand partly. There's a lot of little things that they say rapidly, and you don't unless you understand, you don't pick it up. And to somebody who's listening and they don't fully understand, it's not funny. And then it's kind of
Yeah. I know when I was a teenager, I used to live with my grandparents, and they spoke Cree to each other, especially when they didn't want me to hear it. But especially when they were just in private together. When they were together, they always spoke in the language. So they would be going to bed, and I could hear them from their room, and they would be talking Korean, just laughing and laughing and laughing. And I always wanted to be in on the joke. I was like, I wonder what they're laughing about in there. And so now starting to learn the language, I can pick up on a few of those things. You know, I can start to put it together, and that's really special. But the laughter is always there. You know, even if you don't totally understand, it's always there. That's our way, you know?
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's when you're in a crowd, when you're with a bunch of speakers, it's like it's like ongoing, like it's just laughter, it's just, and they tell with the stories they tell, it's laughter, but it's also a lesson at the same time to it when they're telling you something. It's beautiful.
Tapwe.
Yeah, I tried to Ojibwify it.
Yeah.
Debwe.
Yeah. How about you, Cayer?
Debwe. Or like what? Like how to say truth? Or just like
just use the demonstrating.
Like
Any thoughts on,
I learned so
thoughts on
much,
table?
but from everyone. I really love learning like the different ways different communities say stuff, and like different language groups too. But yeah, it's like so nice to see everyone here. Yeah, Kinenako Kinanaskomen. Oh, Kinanakomenanim. Oh my gosh, I'm getting confused. Language.
I guess that's leading to the farewells. So you can do I don't know if we want to end off, Darcy, the same way that we end off table. We usually tell people like there's lots of different levels that you can say farewell. We heard Ron Richard at table taught us like Bama. You could just start as simple as Bama or Banimaapi or Gigawap Minawa. Gigawap
Or
Migo.
Minowa.
Minawa. And you could say in Ininímowin Ginanaskomitin.
Ginanaskomitin.
And in Anishinaabe Ginanakominim or yeah. And then anybody can unmute their mics and they can say a farewell. They can say miigwech, bama, or whichever farewell they'd like.
Or Kigawap Migo Minowa.
Gigawap Migo Minowa.
I'll go with that one. Gigawap Migo Minowa.
Gigawap Migo Minowa.
Miigwech.
Minawa.
Ikaw, Amen na. Yang Amazon.